Tech support is one of the biggest headaches we have ever had to deal with. They put you on hold. They ask you questions that make absolutely no sense from a field perspective. It seems like tech support from most manufacturers fails to live up to the challenges of the real world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Temporal 3 podcast. We are coming to you today from the National Training Center Conference in Las Vegas. Show your badge.
Woo! What happens in Vegas gets broadcast on this podcast.
That's right. So we're being joined today by Doug from Pertronic. Welcome, Doug, to the Temporal 3 podcast.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And one of the first things that we'd like to talk about today, from your perspective as a manufacturer of fire alarm equipment, is the importance of training. How important do you think training is in the fire alarm industry?
Oh, it's absolutely important. It's absolutely important to do the installations correct, to be able to know how to read schematics, how to understand the instructions that they're given and the language that they're given. We kind of exist in our own world in the fire industry, and just knowing some of the terminology can be a challenge sometimes with some of our customers that are branching off into being a fire installer, say from like a security company. We have several companies that are making that transition, growing their companies and taking on fire, and a lot of things are even called different things in the fire industry. So we find that to be a very important thing.
You made a statement about something that I want to dispute. Us all being men here, you said reading instructions, and as men, we don't read instructions and we don't ask for directions.
No, but it's easy to pick up a phone and make a phone call a lot of times, and I would love to see a lot more of our customers empowered to do a lot of things on their own, so that we can focus on more advanced things for our customers, and we want to grow with our customers, and we feel like training is a huge part of that growth process.
I hear you. That would be nice. You're right. And it is a lost art, unfortunately, for technicians. I think a lot of technicians feel it's easier to pick up the phone and then complain about having to hold tech support forever and ask a question than actually open a manual. But that's just my thing as an old guy. So from your company's perspective, what are your views on NICET certification?
Well, we're a NICET sponsor, so we're obviously very involved with the program and a huge supporter of that. We encourage all of our customers to seek out certifications, to have someone on staff that can do the design, and as they grow their company, have someone that can approve plans and be able to be sort of their internal guru as they continue to grow.
Absolutely. Charles, what has been your experience with dealing with tech support and getting your technicians to read manuals? You worked on the installation side.
Oh, gosh. Tech support is one of the biggest headaches we have ever had to deal with. They put you on hold. They ask you questions that make absolutely no sense from a field perspective. It seems like tech support from most manufacturers fails to live up to the challenges of the real world. That's just my personal opinion. So having a tech support that really provides quality advice to the field is such an important thing.
Absolutely.
Not all manufacturers take that seriously.
No, they follow a script typically. Your people that are doing tech support are barely more qualified than the people that are making the phone calls in a lot of cases. I'm afraid it's something neat at Pertronic. We have an opportunity here as a small company to service customers like they used to be serviced. I don't know how much you know about our company, but we are one of the last privately owned companies, I think, in the U.S. fire alarm manufacturer industry. Most companies have been bought out, or merged, and become part of a bigger organization, very focused on making money and not really paying much attention to supporting the customers and the installations that they might need a little help with. Everybody that's a customer of Pertronic has my phone number, and I do answer my phone.
There you go. Well, that's important. That really is, especially when you're working on a fire alarm system. I mean, time is money. And
Absolutely.
It's nice to be able to have somebody that you can call and that you can rely on and will answer your questions and provide you with the support. That is extremely important. So one of the topics that I'd like to talk about today, and this is something that we have a lot of discussions with our customers about, is the demise of the DACT. I think we all agree that the digital alarm communicator transmitter is on its way out. Would you all agree with that statement?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it's a dying technology, and I'm old school in this business. I'll tell you how old I am. How long I've been doing this, 44 years in this business. I can remember when Silent Night introduced one of the first dual line DACs that had a panel and a module, an outboard module you had to buy, and the 2 phone lines and everything, and it was a real interesting arrangement. And for years and years, and this is prior to this, panels didn't have built-in DACs. Then we saw panels with built-in DACs, and now what we're starting to see with a lot of equipment manufacturers is complete elimination of the DACT, and either not even offering a DACT option, or it's a plug-in module. So DACs are on their way out for sure, but why are DACs on their way out? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, copper is getting expensive and hard to get. In a lot of parts of the country, getting a traditional phone line, let alone 2 traditional phone lines, if you're using an older edition of the code that requires 2 phone lines, can be hard and can be expensive. You have the national broadband plan that the U.S. government put forward to basically offer internet or provide internet to the whole country. But part of the trade-off of the national broadband plan is they can eliminate copper. And so now, having a dial tone at a premise is not an option in some parts of the country. It's interesting that we will get calls occasionally from students who will get forwarded a notice from their customer, who basically the customer gets the notice from the phone company, said, hey, your copper phone line, your dial tone is going away. We're going IP. You're going to have to switch to VoIP, which presents its own set of problems for communication. So the DACT is definitely a dying breed. And, in my opinion, it served a purpose, provided those dual phone lines. In 2013, 72 updated to say one telephone line, an alternative method of transmission. In my opinion, and I don't sit on the code committees, unlike some of the other NTC instructors do, but I suspect sometime in the future that the DACT is going to become one of those legacy technologies like Direct Connect and McCullough. Charles, thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I think that's going into chapter 27 before too long.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. It could be like a public emergency reporting system. So technology-wise, Doug, you mentioned as being a relatively new player in the fire alarm industry. Give us a little background on Pertronics. I'm sure a lot of our listeners maybe have not heard of Pertronics. Who is Pertronics?
Yeah, we are. We're very new to the U.S. market, but we are a company of 43 years experience. We come out of New Zealand. We pretty much we are by far the largest provider of fire alarm control panels in New Zealand, and I think we're number 2 in Australia as well. So a lot of background in experience in manufacturing fire alarm systems and being a leader in that area of the world. And about 4 years ago or so, we started to take a look at that and bringing that into the U.S. market. So there was a nice established product that was new, a revamped, re-released to the market over there, and we started looking at what it would take to pass UL and serve the U.S. market in the way that it needed to, and that's I consulted with Pertronic for about 3 years, took it through the UL process after the modifications, and we really kind of launched it to the market at the first of this year, here in 2025. We talking about the DACs. It never even crossed my mind to develop a DAC as a part of the project. Everything that we do is we're trying to be very forward thinking. when you decide to do something, just because of the product life cycle and the cost, the expense, the time of getting something UL listed, you really need to think of the future and where you're going to be for the next 20 years. Anytime you make a product, and we just don't see, there are some things that are just that need to die out, that should die out, and the DACT. It doesn't really serve a purpose, with today's communicator. It like you said, it did at a time, but those days are long gone. And we're already seeing where we're as a 2-loop panel. Our basic panel comes with 2 loops, 2 SLCs, and we can compete against a single loop panel just because of the cost associated with their dialer, and add-on card. In many cases, it's not part of the main board and included in the panel in some cases. And we can be competitive just from the fact that we don't have that overhead. We don't have that cost. Interestingly enough, when we were going through the UL process, we had it connected to it was a NAPCO communicator at the time, and it was reporting through the intranet to their NOC off premise, and we were using a web browser, just to view the events as they arrived at their NOC. And it took a while to convince UL that as I was creating an alarm on the fire panel, that what they were seeing, it was actually coming from what I was doing, because it happened so quick. The technology to go through, through a direct connection to a communicator, just through a serial connection between the panel. You don't have that, those delays of simulated phone lines and the slow DTMF type technology that of the past. And it was like pressing, push buttons on a phone. None of those delays, they're not necessary, and they're long gone and a thing of the past. So, we were able to send events in, sub-second times. And supervision makes it very easy too. Quick ping outs, and everything becomes better. My real question, Bryan, is when are we going to do more than just send contact ID? When are we going to send a description of a point, to a central station? When is that going to happen?
And I agree with you. And it's interesting because one of our other guests on the podcast at our national training conference was Daniel Rosales from Taylor in Togard, and we were talking about that exact topic and how excited he is about the ability to be able to communicate extended data. And when we're talking about firefighting and we're talking about first responders, the more information we can give them, the better they can respond, the more quickly they can act, and the more lives they can save. And if we can, and what you guys are doing is very interesting, the direct communication, as you say, limiting contact ID or SIA, and actually providing full descriptive information as much as possible from the panel to the communicator, as you said too, not having to wait, not simulating 2 phone lines and waiting for it to pick up the phone line, simulate a handshake, and transmit data, even though it's going to happen really, really quick. And then sending basically some letters and numbers and see a contact ID or one of the formats, and being able to send that extended data is really exciting. And I think that's something that will really be hugely innovative for us in the communications. So I know you guys talk to NAPCO. What other products do you talk to?
Let's see. Well, AES. So AES is another one. That was our original approval that we got with talking directly to the radio. That was one that was fairly easy to implement it, in fact, and we're looking at others, and Daniel's certainly become a friend and someone that I've talked to a lot about this as well. So I would expect to see something in the future with them as well. The difference in time to send absolutely every piece of information that the panel knows about a detector would using modern technology would take a couple milliseconds at most. It's kind of crazy that we don't already do this.
In talking to you, Doug, at this event, one of the other things interesting that your panel does is a networking capability, the ability to connect multiple panels together. I know it supports a lot of SLCs in the cabinet, but there's huge expansion capabilities. So would you talk about that a little bit in your line?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had the opportunity to do some very large tunnel projects in Australia. And as a result of that, we've got some real world installations of upwards to 150, 160 panels that are all communicating in a sequential. I think those are Class A, so they would be in a ring type configuration. Our network card supports different topologies, physical topologies from between each panel. You can do it over copper, you can do it over single mode or multi-mode fiber, and you can change those mediums between each one of the panels. So if you've got two network cards in the same proximity, you can do copper between them, save you a little bit of money and infrastructure. But then we're seeing a lot of applications where with multiple buildings, it's just easier to, if you've got fiber, to be able to do that and to run those out to those remote locations. So
interesting stuff.
Quite a bit.
Charles, does that excite you? Does that make you wish you were back out in the field again working on this stuff?
I think it's forward thinking and innovative. I'm thrilled to see that a manufacturer like Pertronic is going in that direction.
So one of the neat things we also allow is programming of and visibility of the entire network from any point on the network. So you're able to get to absolutely every piece of information about every panel on the network from any drop on the network. That's all through a local Ethernet connection to your laptop. To be able to do programming and extract logs and things like that. So from a maintenance standpoint, from a programming standpoint, it's very flexible in that respect. In fact, you can update firmware remotely over that. Talking about the tunnel project, they can do every piece of firmware to every aspect of every panel within 20 minutes of an update. So that it's important to keep those tunnels open, as you can imagine. So we've made some very robust, advanced things over our network.
Very exciting stuff. All right. Well, Doug, I want to thank you again for attending the conference with us and also attending this podcast and providing some very interesting discussion about the future of communication of fire alarms.
Yep. Glad to be here.
Thank you again for attending, and everybody listening out there, please be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast to hear more episodes. Thank you all again.
Thanks, everyone.
And signing off from Las Vegas, South Point Hotel and Casino, we're here at the NTC Training Conference.